I'm King Link, and once more into the breach. This is the December 2022 Game Pass review. As always, I take a look at everything that came out over the past month. We have 16 titles this month, and that's a pretty good amount. There have been some major releases, exciting additions, and a couple of great games. Since this series is focused on the PC, that means we won't be talking about Norco or Metal Hellsinger here, but I have reviewed those previously, and console fans definitely should check out Metal Hellsinger. It's a great musical FPS. The rules are the same as always, a single night with each game, playing as much as I want and seeing how they are. The truth is, this month I think the average playtime was between 2 and 3 hours. I just wasn't feeling as many of the games as in the past, but there are still some I'm itching to get back to. With that said, let's start talking about the entries. Ghostlore, a Diablo clone that is still pretty rough. Ghostlore is in early access, and maybe that's the problem. The roots here are inspired by Diablo, and coming from a Singapore company, there's a decent amount of Eastern Asian inspired monsters. There are multiple character classes, the ability to multi-class eventually, and a good Tetris grid system for configuring abilities, showing the game has interesting ideas. The problem is, this just feels like Diablo 1, a good game, but really needing a sequel to get the polish it needs. The loot system just floods your inventory, and within an hour it stops being fun. Even limiting the loot to rare items only doesn't have the excitement when finding a new item because there are too many drops. Inventory management as well just takes far too long, and that's what you focus on from a loot grinder. Pick this up if you want a Diablo game not made by Blizzard, but this is rough and maybe some of the fun can be fixed before it leaves early access. I just don't think it will. This could be more fun with friends, but after playing it for like 2 hours, just looking at the loot felt very tedious, whereas Borderlands or Destiny has better pacing and more interesting items. Lapin, perfect platforming with a cute story. Lapin is about a group of rabbits who have to leave their home to explore a large world with numerous randomly placed dangers and platforms. There's a good story focused on following another expedition team's footprints with numerous good scenes that help define interesting characters, and the controls are extremely tight, even when a level looks frustrating. The one problem is there's not really a lot of challenge here, and I hope this gets an alternate difficulty or even 2 like Celeste or Super Meat Boys. However, with it not out of early access, I could only see part of the story, and I'm not sure where the final chapters will really take it either. Finally, some of the early pacing is a bit bad with a lot of dialogue and story at the beginning of each chapter, but once you get into the main levels, you're gonna have a good time. Pick this up if you like Celeste or puzzle platforming. This feels like a solid game, but it is a bit too early to fully judge this at this point, and while the game might be aimed at a younger audience, there's still room for a solid challenge. However, I did play the entire game and it is in early access, so I'm going to hope the developers will deliver even more than they're talking about now, or at least the final product will be at the same quality while the current version is at. Dune Spice War, an interesting RTS, though an unfinished one. Dune Spice Wars is an attempt to take the Dune universe and adapt a strategy 4X type game to it. Players take over different areas of the planet Arrakis to try to harvest spice, gaining power, dominance, and winning the game in one of 4 ways. A lot of the early combat is exploration based, but you can go to war with other factions the minute you see them as well. There are 2 problems with Dune Spice Wars, and probably related. The tutorial is heavily lacking, you'll have to learn about the game online or through trial and error, and the second issue is that many of the game's systems, such as diplomacy, really feel shallow when the diplomacy is the heart of the books. Also, the UI is a bit of a problem child, but hopefully all of that can get fixed before this game leaves early access. Pick this up if you like real-time strategy games and want to put in some real hours to learn them. I probably would skip this until it launches officially, but I'm sure once someone learns all the systems, it's a better experience. That just takes an obscenely long time as the game is now.
The city is still locked down, and the only way to the inner parts is through the sewer system. Go, Grave! Mika's team is already close to their second objective.
Gungrave G.O.R.E. They don't make games like this anymore. For a reason. As I started to play Gungrave G.O.R.E, I found myself surprised. This is a throwback to a style of shooter that really isn't too common anymore. Levels with a large number of enemies to kill, tons of actions, and big, powerful anime attacks. It's a wild gun battle that makes you feel quite powerful. but after about 4 levels, I was already bored with the game and found out that I was only like 10% done. The bosses were interesting, but the normal enemies were dull battles, and the level layout was extremely lacking. There was some variety, but the levels went on too long, and while there were a ton of enemies, it was just a slog through them rather than an interesting combat. Pick this up if you just want a huge action game with those massive attacks, but I'm a fan of the original Dynasty Warrior games. This one just isn't as fun or interesting to wade through the massive number of enemies after a few levels and a couple of hours. Battlefield 2042, just the worst. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm sure there's something that people like Battlefield 2042 for, or at least are continuing to play it for. It's probably the same Battlefield that has a massive franchise, but after playing this for an hour, I was already bored. There are 2 main modes, both revolving around capturing or holding points, a battle royale, which is fine I guess, a rotating mode, which if I told you about now, wouldn't matter because it's already gone from the time I played it, and gameplay that's just not that much fun. If you want a large epic battle, this might have it, but it doesn't have any other reason to keep playing it. Raining down hell on enemies can be fun, and working as a team can work, but there are so many better games. I question if the current fan base loves this game or just paid a certain amount of money and now play it out of obligation. The fans deserve much better. Everyone does. Don't pick this up. It's fine to try it because it's free on Game Pass, but it feels like minimal effort was put in. What's sad is this is a better game than it launched with. It's patched, fixed up, and must be improved, but I still saw a pop in, and the game overall as it is today is still not that great. This makes me wonder what the original Battlefield 2042 release was like, and I know it was far worse. Soccer Story, a sports RPG that does the RPG elements better. Soccer Story is in the same vein as Golf Story. Take a popular sport, add an RPG mode to it, and let players explore the world at their own pace. In Soccer Story's case, this feels extremely good. Exploring the world while using soccer moves and talking to various people is entertaining. I spent at least 90 minutes or more before coming to my first match, and that time was filled with discovery and interesting moments around the map. The problem is, once you get to the match, Soccer Story is still a soccer game. I lost my first match and thought I was expected to lose to the kindergarten class because they were so overpowered, and honestly that could have been funny. It wasn't a scripted failure, and the second time I destroyed them with no clue why I did so well. The matches are a bit random and there are skill points and upgrades, but it's not as natural as a normal RPG. Also, the story is a bit silly, which works, but might be too silly for some people. It was pushing the limits for me with soccer killed people. Pick this up if you enjoy soccer and want to play an RPG based on it. I rarely play soccer games, I'm just not a fan of the sport, but this one is one that I'd probably consider playing more of just to see what else it has up its sleeves, and likely will turn down the match difficulty because that's the one part that wasn't as fun. Also, I am using the term soccer because it's in the title of the game. Walking Dead: The Final Season, one more time. Alright, quickly, another Walking Dead game. You're Clementine again, stuff happens, I don't care, animations look awkward, the gameplay is the same as always, meh. If you already played seasons 1, 2, and the rest of the series, play this, otherwise don't start here, obviously. Nothing else to say at this point.
Cleanse this place, one mutant alive.
Warhammer 40k Darktide, a co-op game, but in a rough state. Warhammer 40k Darktide is a game that probably should be in early access. There are missing features like the crafting system, content that doesn't mesh together, a weapon system that feels uninspired, and there are a lot of issues running the game. It's a half-baked product and this will improve, but this isn't a preview. It's supposed to be the final game. And yet there's something I like here. I played the big brute and felt slow, and after trying a different class, it's clear that's because I'm twice the size of other characters, which feels awesome. Running around levels and taking on hordes of enemies is fun when it works. Sadly, everything is online, so you can't play offline and have to deal with network issues. This feels similar to Deep Rock Galactic, but has more of a progression to the story on each level, so there's always a focused goal. Pick this up if you have some friends for the co-op action. You have to play online, but I'd say give this like maybe 3 to 6 months to get the content and patches fixed. I hate saying that, but it's the best I could do. If I was to review it as I played it, I probably wouldn't recommend it, but there's already been at least one patch and hopefully there'll be some improvements since then. Totally Reliable Delivery Service. I think I actually hired these guys before. Totally Reliable Delivery Service is yet another physics-based game that's supposed to be so random, it's funny, and honestly I think they succeeded. The base game is you take on missions to transport packages from point A to B and are graded on speed or damage done, but the physics, vehicle, and controls are just realistic enough to make this both fun and interesting. You're placed in a large world and can explore it and complete missions at your own pace. At the same time, the amount of content is worrisome. After an hour, I felt like I was doing the same thing over and over, even though there were some interesting twists. The main progression is just unlocking new areas and earning trophies. The physics can be annoying at times, and trying to figure out how to grab an object or where to place the object on a vehicle can be a pain, and I think the game was designed to be viewed on a stream or played with a friend. There is an online co-op mode and a couch co-op, but I would recommend playing with the same people as you progress in the game. Pick this up if you like wacky physics games or just have someone to play with. This is a fun game, but it's also a bit limited in scope and length. Still, I had more fun playing this than a lot of games this year for how unique the idea is and how well it is executed. Eastward, a bit of Zelda dragged down by the story. When Eastward gets going, like you're seeing on the screen, Eastward is fantastic. The animations and the art design are incredible, the gameplay flows fluidly, the battles and bosses are all interesting, and the game works. This is inspired by classic Zelda games and Earthbound, and it's worthy of that praise. I really want to like this. The problem is, I just didn't want to keep playing this game. It's the story and the narrative that makes it just feel like a waste of time. In the first 2 hours, there were huge spans of time that were just pointlessly walking around or talking to people in long segments, and while the action is good, the pacing and narrative is pretty bad. People have said it gets better, but that's one of those things that triggers me. Why not make the whole game good instead of putting the best segment after potentially 8 hours of a weaker experience? Pick this up if you're willing to suffer through some bad pacing. I'd say just hammer through all the dialogue as there's no way to actually skip it, but also sometimes you need to know where to go next. This is sadly one of those games that I really want to love, but I probably won't return to. Though maybe I will come back in the future and push through, but even with the great gameplay and combat, I don't think I have it in me. Hello Neighbor 2. Why is this still a thing? I've played Hello Neighbor, Hide and Seek, Secret Neighbor, and now Hello Neighbor 2, which, okay, I guess works in some new math fashion. I've not had a lot of nice things to say about the Hello Neighbor franchise, and I'm still not a fan. What I can say is Hello Neighbor 2 is the best out of all the games in the franchise. There's some excellent exploration, good puzzles, interesting designs. The game starts with a mystery house and a police officer looking for you rather than the neighbor, and at first I avoided him, but as you solve puzzles, he moves to new locations to inconvenience you more. The more I think about Hello Neighbor 2, I just wish there wasn't anyone chasing you because rather than being a scary experience, it's more inconvenient than anything since the puzzles reset every time you're caught. I would love to explore this house, solve the puzzles, and see what weird and interesting things the game has, but the focus of the game relies on trying to be scary, and that ruins the experience yet again. I've heard a good retrospective on how the original Hello Neighbors Alpha became the final game, and the part that children and Twitch streamers had on it, as well as the overall focus on lore rather than gameplay. I was interested in the original game's concept, but after playing this, I think I'm just going to conclude I will never enjoy the series and I'm going to stop trying. Pick this up if you like the previous games. As much as I really hate this game and the franchise, this is the best one of the series and has everything that fans probably enjoy. I just really question why people enjoy the franchise. Also, just a heads up, I've heard this is extremely short, like people can beat it in 4 hours, which is disappointing as well. Chained Echoes, a perfect love letter to the SNES RPG era. Chained Echoes is great. This is inspired by RPGs that were on the Super NES. The style, art, and design here just feel like the entire move to the third dimension didn't happen, and beyond just imitating what was on the Super NES, it feels like the developer evolved the formula to modernize it without ruining it. This is a very solid experience. There's an excellent overdrive system, which means you can't just use the same attack every turn. Your characters fully heal between battles, which means you can just use any ability you want. Even leveling has changed, where the focus is on skill points, and leveling is based on how many bosses you've beaten. Pick this up if you like turn-based RPGs or like these graphics. This is a title that shouldn't be missed. It's a 20+ hour experience, and the only reason I stopped playing it is I'm planning on playing through the entire game soon, and I didn't want to leave it half finished. I also picked this up on Steam as well to support the dev and have it in my collection.
Ambassador, shall we begin negotiations?
LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, returning the LEGO series to where it should be. I've played almost every LEGO game, and the more recent entries haven't been as good, especially adding voice lines from the movies or adhering a bit too much to the existing media. LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga breaks with that trend and delivers an incredible game. This is almost a full circle, bringing the series back to what started the modern LEGO franchise games with Star Wars once again, and yet delivering an excellent experience for fans. Levels here focus more on the original movies, like seeing parts of the original battle in the New Hope ship from Leia and Captain Antilles' view. There are 23 worlds you can free roam around, including multiple locations on a few of them. There are mini levels, open world segments, tons of collectibles, 300 characters from the games. The amount of effort that went into this game is incredible. I also appreciate that there's some good humor in the game, even though it's following the original stories, which is something the series has lacked for a bit. Though I am going to be a touch negative. As good as everything is, a decent amount of the open world of the game is not LEGO, and that's why it looks great, but it also feels a bit cheating where it's an environment almost any other game could be set in. The majority of the game is like the previous LEGO titles as well, though there is a feeling like it's a third-person shooter at times, which is an odd change, at least at first. Pick this up if you like the previous LEGO games or Star Wars. This revived my love for both of these fandoms, and I'm happy to see a LEGO game like this. I'm only wondering where they're going to take this next. I'm hoping they revisit Harry Potter, Marvel, or DC with the style, because there's just so much potential for the future with this. I picked this up on Steam as well after playing a bit. Also, Han shot first. Period.
We're looking for the gateway to the slums, I guess? Look, it shouldn't be too far. Listen, just follow the waypoint. That's why you're wearing that fancy...
High on life. Please, just shut up. I know there are fans of this stuff, and if you like Rick and Morty or anything else that this creator, Justin Roiland, has done, skip to the next chapter and buy this game. This review isn't for you. For everyone else, this is one of the most annoying games I've ever played. There's a style of comedy that's growing in popularity where people just shotgun jokes over and over and over without letting the audience breathe, and everything is supposed to be funny. It can work, but most of the time almost nothing is funny, and the overacting and desperation to make something work makes it painful. High on Life is extremely painful in this respect. It's just trying too hard with the humor, it's trying to constantly tell jokes, it's no longer subverting expectations because everything is expected to be a joke, and that desperation is clear when the game just keeps playing voice lines at you so often that they start cutting off each other or lines get clipped when you move between areas and get another one right away. You can mute the non-story based comments by the enemies and the guns, but then you're left with a rather average shooter because what's supposed to be funny is stabbing someone and having your knife brag about it, but it doesn't work either way. Remember when I said if you're a fan of the creator, skip to the next chapter and just buy the game? Well, if you're still here, you didn't follow instructions, or aren't a fan of his work, this is a hard skip. No frickin' thank you, I want my time back. Potioncraft Alchemist Simulator, an interesting take on alchemy. Potioncraft is a simple game. You gather ingredients from your garden, grind up potions, and then sell them to customers who come with a variety of issues. The key feature of the game is how you craft potions. It revolves around moving around a map to decide what effects to add to your potion, and each ingredient that you add moves your marker a bit. Exploring the map and trying different things allows you to discover more of the game. The downside is the game is a bit stingy with new features. Apparently the game says a new feature is coming each time you level up, at least that's what I saw, but the game teased me for that for about 30 minutes straight, and finally I gave up because I couldn't find it. The pacing is pretty bad. Also, some customers of the game want a potion but don't make it clear what they want, and there's only so many healing potions you can make or try to make the perfect tier 3 potion before the game becomes too annoying to go on. Pick this up if you want to try something new. Now I had to look this up because part of my brain was screaming this is from someone like Zachtronics. It's not, though it fits in that same category. It's mostly a simulator game, but also an engaging experience, and I probably will return eventually. This is not the type of game you should sit down and play through the entire game straight. It's probably better if you played in short bursts, and if I had done that, I think I would enjoy it even more. Rainbow Billy, The Curse of the Leviathan. A colorful game about ships. Friendships. I hate when narratives come down to the power of friendship being what saves the day. It usually makes me groan, but Rainbow Billy does it in a charming way. Throughout the journey here, Billy runs into various creatures, each with insecurities, and works to befriend them. Each enemy gathered allows them to be used in a large deck of all the creatures found so far. Now this sounds sappy, but actually it's well done. The art style as well is gorgeous and shines, plus the way the color of the world is made to be part of the story is a nice touch. The combat in Rainbow Billy is a bit simple. Every attack has a minigame to execute like Mario RPG, and none of them are that hard. There's no direct combat, but there's more focus on pattern matching and the strategy of using the right characters at the right time. It's also a bit of a silly game, but the writing keeps it lighthearted for the most part. Finally, the UI could use a little work, and a way to delete saves would be appreciated, or even better, multiple profiles so you can start over. Pick this up if you like unique games. The odd combat really works, the designs here are fun, but this is unlike anything else. The game is a little cutesy, it might be too sweet for some people because it's mostly about really silly problems, but I kind of like that. Also, honestly, I shouldn't have to say this, but if you're the type of person who isn't adult enough to deal with a game called Rainbow Billy and what the story might bring, well, the game isn't for you. And honestly, this channel isn't for you. Sorry, my videos are for adults, perhaps you stumbled on it incorrectly. And to be clear, that doesn't mean you can't hate the game, but there are some people leaving negative comments on this game for the wrong reasons that I don't want to get into. It's okay if this game wasn't for you, but what I've seen is definitely too far. And I'm sorry to end on that downer, but that's what I have for Game Pass in December 2022, and perhaps ever. There was also a release of Riot games with perks or something on Game Pass. I assume you get some characters or something for free, but you don't even need to have Game Pass to play those games. Every game is free to play. I'll make it simple, I'm just not covering them here. If you'd like them, go link your account. That being said, I've been on a bit of a roller coaster. Every other game this month made me think this was going to be the worst month or the best. I would go from a game that felt like it wasn't a lot of effort or lacked something to something that I couldn't believe was on this service. While I wish they were all great games, I also appreciate that variety. I also picked up 2 of the games on Steam, as I mentioned, because I really wanted to support those developers and add them to my collection, so I'm glad to even have that in this month. On the other hand, the early access or game previews once again show up, and man, that's where I really struggle with the service. It's not always a bad thing, but it just makes it hard to tell how the final game will actually be. Will they be able to completely redo the story, fix the flaws in the tutorial, or just release the game as is? And that makes it really hard to judge them. With that being said, there are some games I can recommend and a few that I really love, so let's just get to the final best of the month. We'll start with the bottom of the list, the 5th strongest of this month, which is Soccer Story. I love how they took soccer and found a way to make a typical RPG using the sport, rather than trying to adapt fictional changes to the sport to battles. Everything is done with shooting or passing, and I'm still not a big fan of the soccer matches, but as I said, I probably will be returning to see more of the world and the challenges that are still to come. The 4th strongest of this month is Rainbow Billy, The Curse of the Leviathan. I love the fresh take on the RPG genre, the writing felt comfortable, and like I said, I hate the friendship motif usually because it rings hollow, but here it's literally what you're doing. Hell, I'm even forgiving the fact that you're sailing on a boat named the Friendship. Like I said, this game is sickeningly sweet, but it works. The 3rd strongest of this month is Lapin. This is unfinished, which is probably the only negative point about it, but the level design, controls, and overall experience were so good. I even returned a week later and finished off what was already out. I wish there was more, but according to the devs, this is only about half done so far, so I'm looking forward to that final release. The 2nd strongest this month is LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. This is a fantastic game and it revived my love of the series, as well as reminded me why I love Star Wars. The humor makes playing through this game or seeing the stories we already know worth viewing yet another time. The game is also bursting with stuff to do. Also, it's a great choice for co-op or to play with younger kids. The strongest game this month is Chained Echoes. The fact someone took an SNES RPG and then modernized it and improved on the formula is pretty cool. Then I also found out it's a solo dev, which easily made this worthy of attention. But the reason why it's the strongest is that it deserves a chance, and I'm pretty sure it will grow a big audience if it's given one. And that concludes my reviews of Game Pass. A few people have asked me what I think of Game Pass now, and what I can tell you is there's a lot of content on PC. I think I played over 200 games just on Game Pass this year, probably even more, and that's an insane amount. I played a few games I really thought would be good, but weren't, and that actually saved me a lot of money. The upcoming release of Persona 3, as well as the recent release of Persona 5 is easily worth my money, but also A Plague Tale, Psychonauts 2, and man, I just loved Hardspace Shipbreaker. I've gotten my fill of more than enough games to make it worth it, and the ability to try something new is great. For young kids, it's probably a great way to get a large selection of a game library without constantly needing to buy brand new games, and for older gamers, think of it like a buffet. I love going to a restaurant and getting a beautiful steak, but if there's a good sized buffet with enough variety, I'm usually pretty happy, filling my plate with different types of food I want to try, even if it's not as special. Of course, if Microsoft releases all the games they plan next year, there's not going to be a question. It'll be worth it, but that's only if Microsoft can execute what they've been promising. So what do you guys think? Is Microsoft going to be able to deliver? What are you hopeful for in 2023? Or just what do you think of Game Pass as a service? With that said, I'm free! No more Game Pass reviews, at least for a very long time I think. I've said I'm going to be taking a break from making videos, and I swear I will one day, but I still have my vanity project, a year-end look at 2022. I'm really not sure what it's going to be about because I didn't finish as many games due to focusing on the buffet style of Game Pass, but I have a couple of ideas. After that, expect a small break, and then, well, my most popular video on this channel has been screaming at me for over 2 years. Maybe it's time to do something more with that idea. Stay tuned. If you like this video and are curious about what I'm doing next, please consider subscribing. It means a lot to me and I'd appreciate it. Remember to ring the bell and you know the rest. Like, comment, and share this video. It's what we always have to ask. I'll pop up 2 videos for you to check, and once again, thanks for watching. Well, the Game Pass series is ending. It's been interesting for me and I hope you all have enjoyed it as well. See you next time.